Jermaine here, and today I'll be doing a commentary on my most recent Seren run. Hope that it will be fun and useful for some of you who have watched my previous runs and had no clue as to what I was doing. Alright, so before we enter the fight, I'm stacking my double thumb here as per good practice while Kana charges her stone. And we are waiting for stone to charge finish. And then once we are all ready, the cue is given and our party leader enters the fight. So Seren, phase 1, here we go. Here upon entry, I will rush to Seren and try to proc crit bind, and followed by setting up my time distortion and using all my 3 minutes cooldown skill and try to burst her. Do note that over here I'm not using my limit break and transcendent prayer, as those are 4 minute skill, so we want to save them for phase 2 burst instead, as we have enough damage over here in phase 1. And after we have damaged her to a certain point, we will stop attacking and just try our best to survive. So right over there you can see that I'm trying to stay in the same spot as the Kana's barrier. In the event that I do gauge, the barrier would heal my HP constantly, so I would not have to worry too much about dying. But if Seren right now she just came really close to that barrier, so I decided to switch over to the other side. And right now I'm just pretty much chilling, trying to dodge stuff but not being very successful at dodging some of them. And also over here, the Yada vote timer, as you can see, has already been proc. We usually proc this around like 28 or whenever that is the cooldown is done, so that we would have it up when we do burst during phase 2. And for my party, we set a timer to enter phase 2 at 27:00, so around this timing most of us would be forcing our gauge. And as you can see, I have gauge, but personally I think this was a bit too early. I could afford to have gauge later, so that I would enter with a lesser gauge. And yeah, this is a really bad example, in fact, to be entering at 30%. If my team saw this video, I think they would be kind of criticizing me right now. So we're finally done. We enter phase 2. The moment we enter phase 2, we always tell our team to duck, because she might fire a laser at the time, but she didn't. So right now I'll just try to set up everything, all the debuffs and stuff, proc crit bind, debuff, armor debuff, that's a 50% ID debuff, so I'll try to get it up. Oh, and yeah, I should have dodged that bomb. Haven't really used limit break yet because it would interrupt with Kana's bind. So the moment Kana has caught out a bind, here is when I use my limit break and start bursting, expanding available iframes as well, so that my burst doesn't get interrupted. And just making sure that once Seren is released from a bind, then I will follow up with the Shadowing Chains. And one thing to note over here is that I've didn't use my burst stat because I usually save it for the segment test. as burst step is a 120 seconds cooldown, so it's really reusable for every cycle of the segment. For every single segment test. And once I burst finish, I'm attempting to change seed ring here, but I think I could improve on this by making my equipment window smaller, so at least I could still see the bombs that spawn while changing my rings. And right now just trying to dodge every single attack so as not to gauge. And at this point, seeing that my gauge is already close to full, I would tell my team that I'm gonna fail the test so that I could reset my gauge for sunset. And over here, yep, I failed the test, and right now Kana has binded. I had no idea what I was doing back there, jumping around like a monkey. But yeah, I eventually started to burst her, just a small burst. Yeah. And oh, that's a rather unfortunate pillar. Almost half of my team died there. And swapping seed rings once the small burst is over. Getting ready for our big burst in the later part of sunset. Over here, most of the time we will just be trying to dodge all the different environmental hazards like the pillars, the meteors and stuff like that. In priority would be dodging the meteors and the pillars as they will contribute to the gauge. And right now, since the walls have already spawned on each side, Kana should be getting ready to charge a stone, and once a stone is up, then our Lucid Binder will Lucid Bind. It's about now, yes, Lucid has binded, then yep, doing our big burst over here, expanding ion iframes so as to get a non-interrupted burst. And I think over here I should have used my, oh yeah, I did use time holding, that's right. So continue to burst her while she, segment test, and since I have time holding, I didn't have to use burst step over there. So I've saved one additional iframes to be used if in the event I do need it. And in the midnight phase, this is like the easiest phase, the most chillax breather phase. We will just hit her for free. She doesn't, none of her attacks contributes to the gauge anyway. So this practically just free hitting, free DPS. Right, and soon, when it's gonna be the test soon, we'll just tell team to duck, and oof, I think this test is still like kind of buggy sometimes, that even though we are pretty sure every single one of our team duck, sometimes we still fail. And now we have entered the dawn of the first cycle, so my role here is just to hold Saren to make sure that she always faces the wall, so that she doesn't summon crabs across to my team like this. So yeah, sometimes she's a bit playful and she might turn around and then summon a crab at the same time. So that's what I try to avoid. Or she might dash and summon like this, dash and summon a crab, which I have no control over sometimes. But most of the times, I will be keeping her face down against the wall. I mean, facing the wall like this. So this is kind of bad. I already let 3 crabs escape. I think my team must be kind of silently cursing at me right now. Yeah, but basically in this phase, I'll just try to not gauge, try to dodge as much stuff as possible, and to not get hit by the whips. That's extremely important, because if I do trigger the whips, then it might cause my whips clearer to get hit as well, and then he would be in an extremely dangerous position. And yeah, so over there, I did notice, since we have a someone who calls out the time for the whips, and since I know that the whips is gonna spawn soon, I decided to just burst step up instead of trying to trigger the whips and tanking that crab attack, which isn't as risky as triggering the whips. Yeah. Now set my test using joint attack to pass the test, and for the second cycle, pretty much everything is just rinse and repeat of what we did for the first cycle. But I think for this cycle, you can notice that the amount of midnight gauge has really decreased dramatically. So I think some of us, if not most of us, we are really trying to play a bit safer to not gauge or get hit unnecessarily. So once again, trying to time holding and going to extended iframes to dish out some more damage. And I still have Shadow Rain on, so I think I should be Shadow Raining. If I didn't, then I guess I could have Shadow Rain back there for a bit more damage output. We are trying to duck when Saren is not inside, so I don't get hit by her laser. And crit bind is proc, trying to dish out a bit of damage. And she lasers, and she jabs. She lasers, and oh, that was a very bad move. I knew there was laser and I had enough time to react, but I didn't, and my team is probably gonna laugh at me, or I don't know, cry at me for getting hit by that. That was totally uncalled for, and I gauged before the test, which is really unfortunate, which means I have to use expand my joint attack iframe just to get past that test. And over here, yes, there's a short bind by the Kana, and we do our short burst. I have already swapped out. Oh yeah, I used my weapon ring a bit too late over there. I should have started using it at the start of Kana's bind. One thing you know, like every time Saren does this 3/ pattern, 1, 2, 3, my team and I will call out accordingly. And in fact, I think most of us, it's already been quite a number of our runs, so we would already be able to recognize a pattern, like individual slashes, in the event that a bind resets or like halts her previous slash attack, and we would still be able to identify like which slash it is just by looking at the animation. So right now, once the wall has spawned, I think Kana is preparing to charge a stone, and oof, that was really unfortunate. I tagged, but there were double pillars spawning at the same spot, so that was an instant F. Yeah, that was quite unfortunate. I didn't notice that there were 2 pillars. But tagging was already a bad move anyways. I think I had no idea what I was doing back there. Smiles. So right now we just begin to do our burst, and it's the second sunset, which means usually on our runs we would be clearing by now. And at this point, yes, her HP is just left a little bit. So I think we are praying really hard that we can clear this, because none of us would want to enter the third cycle, or in fact none of us will want to enter Dawn. Yeah, I think all of us are at this point smashing our keyboard buttons like 100 times harder in order to do more damage. Like I think we are screaming right now over here. I'm like screaming really hard, and we are about to. Oh, this is really unfortunate. Yep. So we didn't manage to down Saren. It was really close. It was extremely frustrating, and we were punished for not killing her. And right now we have to suffer the penalty of having to deal with 3 deals in Dawn, which is something that most parties would want to avoid. Having 3 deals to deal with is no joke. And at this point I really realized that yeah, I'm in an extreme danger. I wanted to do a no BOD run, but I realized having 1 life and having 3 deals around, that's a no-go. So I instantly equipped my BOD back, as I didn't want to cause my team to fear by not using BOD when I have it. Just for what, right? So it's extremely messy right now, because I think at this point my brain is already in like a panic frenzy mode because of the 3 deals and the fact that I only have 1 life left. And but luckily the deals aren't that attracted to me. I guess maybe I'm in alpha for most of the time, and the deals are like, you know, nil, so they don't get attracted to my alpha. Or yeah, I guess only when I change to beta then the deals come closer, because my beta is female. Or I'm just kidding over there. Okay, so over here I think I'm gonna gauge, because I gauge because of the whips. I was in bad spot there. There were deer everything everywhere. Yeah, this is why you do not want to deal with 3 deers. Try to avoid this scenario as much as possible. And I think most of us are like chanting, please Dawn, please be over soon. Like once we manage to survive this, there's a very high chance that we will be able to down it. So at this point Dawn is finally over after a very long period. That felt like an eternity. So we are back to the 3rd cycle of Noon, and here is where we kind of catch our breath after the crazy Dawn phase, and relax and regroup and try to execute as per what we practice. Okay, so over there I did a very bad move. I had ROR for up, I had iframes up, but I panicked and I jumped out of my up for instantly losing a tons of damage. I think my party would probably kill me if they saw this, but at least we managed to down, so maybe they won't kill me as bad as I thought. And yeah, we finally down Saren. It was a really crazy run. I had 1 life left. Not just me, I think, yeah, Mavlon also had 1 life left. Our gauge, we were probably left like probably less than 5 ticks before we failed the whole run. It's a really crazy run, but it's a really fun, I guess, run, because it's not all the time we get to experience 3 deals. It's like probably my 2nd run having to experience 3 deals. It's kind of crazy, but it was really fun. And yeah, that's the end of my run. I hope you enjoyed it and the commentary. If you have any feedbacks or suggestions as to what I can do better, feel free to leave it in the comments. And yeah, hope to see you all next time. Aoyume signing off.